Hey guys, welcome back to Voice Bootcamp. This is Faisal Khan, and in this video of CCNP Collaboration Self-Study Kit, I'm going to talk about Call Manager Express or Cisco Unified Communication Express. Now, CUCME or Cisco Unified Communication Manager Express basically is an iOS feature that is part of your Cisco router, which makes the Cisco router an IP-based PBX. So here is an example of a router which is connected to your WAN internet, or it could also be connected to the telephone network PSTN. This router can have, if it has the necessary iOS feature, then it can turn into a PBX based solution. By having this router acting as a PBX, you could have Cisco IP phone internal to your organization registered to this router as a PBX. So the role of this particular router is to provide call processing and device control. Device control meaning that the phone has to be first registered so that the router can control those phones by providing dial tone, by resetting them when is needed, by pushing the configuration down to them. Now, Call Manager Express or CUCME are managed either through command line or a GUI-based configuration. It also has the capability to provide local directory service, such as managing your username and password. It also has the capability to third-party integration with CTI. It can be trunked to another VoIP network using some sort of SIP trunk or H323 trunk. With the appropriate version 8.4 or 9 onward, you can make video and IP calls through this particular the routers. Now, to configure this router as a telephony service or Call Manager Express, you have to first decide what protocol to run. Now, there are two types of Call Manager Express or CUCME that you have. One is skinny base or SCCP, and one is SIP base. Now, to configure the skinny base, we will first go to the router. Under the config mode, you will type the command telephony service, and this is by typing this particular command, it allows you to go into the telephony configuration mode. And then you need to define three most important parameters: IP source address, max DN, and max ephone. IP source address define what address or IP address do you want the Call Manager Express to bind to. So in this case, it has to be one of the IP address that is configured in the router, and make sure that there is a connectivity to that IP address from the network. Now, by default, telephony service use the port number 2000, which is Cisco IP phones are designed to point to it. Now, the maximum number of ephone, meaning that number of phone that can be registered, is 15, or it can go up to 400. It will or higher depending on the model of the router that you're using. And max DN represent the number of extension. So in this case, 15 extension, for example. Now, once you define this, all other parameters you see here are not really mandatory, but these three commands are definitely mandatory. Now, this is what you type when you're configuring, let's say, a skinny based solution. So I am right now on side B router. I will go to config T, telephony service. I will say IP source address 142.102.65.254, port 2000, max ephone 15, max DN 15. Now, if I say max ephone question mark, it will tell you that this particular platform or the router can handle maximum of 30 phone. Now, just because you have a 30 phone that you can register to this does not necessarily mean that you are legally allowed to register 30 phone. So the number of phone that you can actually register to the system will depend on how many licenses you have purchased. If I say max DN question mark, it gives you 150 directory number or extension that can be configured on this particular platform. Alright, like I said, as this is exactly what I need just to get this service running. So if I type show run / telephony, just TELE, which will take me to the telephony section, and these are the three commands that I really need. This is a default command that is already there. This is a default command, and these two basically says that the DN, which is the directory number extension, and the time are editable from the web interface. Alright, so that's pretty much how you enable an skinny based telephony solutions on a Cisco routers. Now if you are going to use SIP based solution, and ultimately you are going to face with SIP because everything is moving towards SIP, then configuration is a little bit different syntax. First of all, the way SIP works is that the source address of a SIP traffic must be defined using a SIP bind command. So first of all, you go to config T mode, type voice service VoIP, then you enable this feature called allow connection SIP to SIP. That is meaning that to enable SIP traffic coming in, SIP traffic going out. Then you type the command SIP and you say bind control and media source interface gigabit 0/0.102, which is the IP address I decided to use. It could be any of the interface as long as it's up and running and is pingable. So you need to bind that command for SIP to allow registration. Now remember, SIP use register and proxy server and all whatnot. For certain client that is going to register to the SIP, it must require register server parameters. So under the SIP command right here, you're going to say register server max expire maximum 1200, minimum 300 seconds. Once this is done, then you are ready to enable SIP based telephony. So you go to voice service VoIP global, define the mode, either CME or SRST. Source address is the IP address of the router that you want the COCME to listen to, and their port number is 5060. Max DN and max pool, which is equivalent of these two right here, max ephone and max DN. So max DN represent number of extension, max pool represent number of phone or ephone. Now certain applications, third party, if you are going to register to this router as a SIP proxy or register server, you have to enable something called authenticate register, and you must define which domain name that the user is going to use. So authenticate realm voicebootcamp.com. Then you type create profile just to create that configuration profile for all your configured endpoint. And then you have NTP server address if you want to define the IP address of the NTP server so that it can be it can log the details with appropriate timestamp. Now we are going to use NTP unicast mode, not a multicast. Alright, so once the base telephony service is enabled, the next step is to look at how to configure extensions and phone. So the next few slides we're going to discuss about the extensions, directory numbers, often known as extensions. In Call Manage Express, you will hear the term called DN, directory number, short form DN, which is known as an ephone-DN for SCCP, which represent the line connecting to a voice channel to a phone. So if you take a look at a phone, every phone will have a line 1, a line 2, and each line will represent an ephone DN. So here's an example of a phone. You can see that you get line 1 4001 and line 2 4101. So basically each extension will be represented by a ephone-DN. Now each directory number has a unique DN tag. So when we create an extension, let's say ephone-DN, and this is a tag, and these tags are very unique. So you could start with 1, 2, 3 and all the way. And each ephone DN will be represented by a telephone number, so extension. So number 6001, 6002. It could be any length of digit, that's fine. It doesn't have to be 4 digit, could be 10 digit, 8 digit, doesn't matter. It all depends on your design. Now, every ephone DN that you create by default is a single line, or known as single line DN with only one voice channel. So whenever you create a DN, what you really do, you create a virtual port, and one or more dial pairs are automatically created for each directory number. Now the number of simultaneous calls that you can have will depend on the type of DN, such as if you take a look at this particular DN, which is single line, the second DN that you see right here is known as dual line. We'll talk about the dual line shortly. So if I go back to my site B and I want to create an ephone DN, so I'll just simply go type the command ephone-dn1, and then if I put a question mark, I have option dual line, octo line. Now for now I'll just keep very simple, so I'll say single line, and I'm going to say number 4001, and I have an option to define a secondary number. Let's say if my phone number starts with 408, sorry, wrong number. Let's try 301 because side B has that extensions, and I will say 1972.302.3001 as a secondary number. 972.302.3001. So I have the option to assign both numbers. Now I can dial this particular ephone DN by dialing 3001 or by dialing 972.302.3001. Similar to like an IP address. You know how you have a secondary IP address in a router? Same concept. Now once this is done, I can have many other parameters, such as if I want to assign myself a name, so I can say name Faisal Khan, label, let's call it private line, and then description, I could put my phone number. Okay. So many of these customization can be done, and at the end it will look something like this. Okay, so ephone DN1, number, primary number, secondary number, label, which will show up on the phone right beside that, and the description will show up in the very top, like right here, and then of course the name when I call that person. So that's basically how you create an extension. So if you have 500 employees, you're going to create 500 ephone DN. If you have 200 employees, you're going to create at least 200 ephone DN. Now, as I said earlier, that ephone DN can come with a multiple different type. You have the single line, what I've just shown you. Then you have a dual line and octo line. In a dual line, you can have two simultaneous calls coming to this extension. In a single line, only one inbound call to this extension is allowed. But dual line, on the same number, two simultaneous calls. So if you are already on a call, and there is a second call come in, what is going to happen is it's going to take the second channel to receive the call. So in a dual line, you technically have call waiting and call forwarding enabled. Single line, you don't have that option because the line is already occupied. So there is no second channel available for second calls to come in. Now when you have a dual line, you could receive the call on the first channel, and the second channel could be used for making an outbound call, or could be receiving a second call, or could be used to transfer a call or forward a call. Now, between this dual line and a single line, not every scenario where the single line will be not every scenario dual line will be applicable. For example, if you're creating a scenario for paging, or you're creating a scenario for a configuration for intercom, voicemail, MWI, in that case, you're going to have to create ephone DN single line, because those features do not support dual line capability. Then you have the octo line. Now the octo line can handle 8 simultaneous calls inbound or outbound in combination to that particular line. So I can call 4001 simultaneously 8 times. And what it does, it basically allows receptionists to have high number of slightly number of more calls than a normal employee, because the receptionist usually receive multiple calls at a time sometime. In an octo line, you could restrict by saying unstop channel 1, that means only one inbound call is allowed, remaining 7 calls can be outbound only. If I say unstop channel 5, that means only 5 inbound calls are allowed. So as I said earlier, the single line makes a one call connection at a time using one ephone line button. Single line directory number has one telephone number associated with it. Should be used when phone button have one-to-one correspondence, such as to the PSTN number. Should be used when you are using a dedicated service such as intercom, paging, message waiting indicator. Must have more than one single line directory number on a phone when used with a multi-line feature like call waiting, call transfer, or conferencing. In a dual line, you have one voice port but 2 channel. Support on Cisco IP phone is running a skinny protocol but not SIP. You can make 2 calls connection at a time using a phone button line. So in this particular extension 6001, 2 simultaneous call can come in. Should not be used for example, special features such as intercom, message waiting indicator, and should be used when you have call waiting, call transfer, and call conference requirement. Because when you have these particular features, what happens is the second channel will be used to establish those calls. Octoline, up to 8 simultaneous calls, pretty much similar behavior as dual line, except the number of calls are slightly higher. Now, if you can share the octoline among multiple phone. For example, this extension 6001 can share between 2 separate phone, and when you do that, when somebody calls this, both phone will ring simultaneously. However, when one of these phone answers the call, all the other phone in the group will see that line being in use. So the remote message that you will see called remote in use. If you press the button at that moment on those phones, what's going to happen is you will not be able to see whom you are talking to unless privacy and barge feature is enabled. When privacy is off, from the other phone you can actually press the button and you will see that who the other person is talking to, the person that answered the call for the first time. But if the privacy is on, which is by default, then you cannot get to see the other person. Now, in order to assign extension to phone, as I said earlier, that you must create an ephone DN, but the phone itself, you must create what we call is ephone. So ephone is a software configuration for a phone in CCNP. These are some of the versions that are currently supported, along with the older version 7900 series. When you create an ephone 1, you must define a tag followed by a MAC address of that particular phone. If you are using a software-based phone on your laptop, then the MAC address of the laptop must be provided in that particular format. Username and password. The new SIP phone may require username and password for managing the phone or authenticating to the system. Using the type command, you can define what type of phone you are adding. So this is an example of Cisco 7965. You say 7965. The button command is very important. What button says that the first one that you see is actually the line number on the button number on the phone, not necessarily the line number. The second number that you see represent which extension or DN number I must apply. So practically what I'm saying, that on this phone, button 1, assign the DN number 2, which contains extension 2002. So that's why you get to see the extension 2002 right here. Once the phone is registered, you can type show ephone registered to see the status of a phone, and from this you will get to see a lot of information such as what codec they're using, what is the phone IP address, how many channels are available, DN1, channel 1, 2, 3. So this is an octo line, you can see. What else can we see? Available line, maximum line, depending on the phone model. because 7961 has 6 line, 9971 might have up to 8 line or 10 line. Alright, it is using a Skinny protocol to register. So it gives you a lot of information, which is enough for you to, I guess, troubleshoot if should you need to. And it also tells you what is the username and the password. To configure the SIP base, remember SIP use a different configuration. First, enable the voice service VoIP, enable the bind command, and enable the registration. Then under voice register global, type mode CME followed by the IP address of the router, maximum extension, maximum pool. These two are required for authentication purposes. Authenticate register and authenticate real all means any domain. Once this is configured, next thing is to define the extension. In SIP base, we configure extension by typing this voice register DN. In ephone, we say ephone-DN. Here we're going to say voice register DN, followed by the tag number. Then you say number 4002, name site C phone 2, label will be whatever you want them to display on the top right corner of the phone. And voice register pool is equivalent of ephone, which represent to the phone itself via the MAC address of the phone, type of the phone, what line on that phone, and what DN needs to be applied. Description, SSCP phone 2. If you want to enable video camera, click on camera. If you want to enable video, click on video. Once this is done, if your phone is pointing to the right IP address, it should register without any problem. So you can type show ephone summary on the Skinny, and show voice register pool 1 brief will show you all the SIP based phone that are registered. Alright, so on this particular router site C, I'm going to configure SIP based telephony. So I'm going to say config T, voice service VoIP, allow connection SIP to SIP, bind all source, so I must type SIP first, then my bind all source interface. Okay, under SIP we're going to say register server max 300, oops, expire. Okay, now we're going to configure the voice register global. Now there's one mode available, mode CME. .254, max pool 15, max DN 15, authenticate register, authenticate realm, voicebootcamp.com, NTP server, mode unicast. So this is what it looks like. Right here. So next, I'm going to create an ephone. DN number 4002. Sorry, this is going to be 4001. Site C phone 1. Then I'm going to create an voice register pool for a phone. Now the MAC address in this case We'll use like a dummy MAC address 123 number 1 DN1. So that is number 1, meaning that line 1 DN1. We're going to define a username. Let's call this phone fcon, password Cisco, voice bootcamp. Alright, so it will look something like this in the final configuration. So this is my extension right here, number, name, then register the phone, ephone register. So every extension I'm going to create, I must create a voice register DN. But every phone that I'm going to register, I must create a pool for every phone, followed by the associated MAC address. Okay, so I'm going to use this software-based phone called X-Lite. Go to account register settings. Under the user ID, I'm going to put the extension number 4001, domain, voice bootcamp, password voice bootcamp, the display name Faisal H Khan, authorization name, the username that I'm going to create. This is the IP address of that router, and when I click OK, I have a debugging on this router. When I click OK, it's trying to register to the router, and you can see account is enabled, and here you can see that the registration was successful. It tells you that registration has been successful with this MAC address. Okay, so if I type show voice register pool 1, brief, tells you what is the number I need to dial to reach that extension. So at this stage, if I dial a number, obviously nothing is going to work right now, because there's no other phones are registered. I'm going to create a second phone. Let me see if I'm going to create a second DN, voice register DN2, number 4002, name John Smith, voice register pool 2. So this is going to be ID 1111, sorry, number 1 DN2, that's the second DN, and then we're going to say username, let's call this John, password voice bootcamp. Okay, so I'm going to do is register John from different clients. So let me see if I have another SIP phone to register. So I am trying to join in from another laptop. So you can see the second phone is registering with all the details. There you go, with the MAC address. So now I got two phone. Okay, so it has been successful. So at this stage, if I were to dial this number, so let's say I'm going to dial from the other phone to this particular phone. So I can dial 4001. You should see the call coming into this phone. Okay, so I'm going to dial the number from the other phone. You can see the call came in, and you can see the messages on the window that call is coming in. I can answer the call. There you go. Okay, so that kind of gives you idea about the telephony service using the SIP base. So just to show you the final configuration of the SIP, what do you need to get this two side working? There's a lot of debugging messages. We'll talk about debugging part back in a troubleshooting site. For now, we're just going to show you that there are activities going on inside the routers. Alright, so now the final configuration will look something similar to this. Voice register global. These are your configuration under the global command. Then for each extension, create an ephone DN1 for FISO 4001, voice register DN1, number 4001, voice register DN2, number 4002, John Smith. If I dial, then I create a pool for this particular phone right here. Keep going to counterpath website. ID MAC address is irrelevant because they are going to use username to log in, so this username is very important. And if you are going to use a third-party SIF client such as this, then you have to make sure that authenticate register and authenticate realm is configured properly. Because if I go to this phone and I change this domain name to something else, let's see, uccollaborations.com, actually it works. So it doesn't make much difference here. So I'm going to put it back in. Technically, sometimes the domain name, if the real name is not configured, it will not do the message digest authentication properly. Alright, so now that I'm done with the Skinny, I'm going to configure the two phone on the Skinny side. So I'll configure the SIP. This is a Skinny router. So I have so far configured a telephony service, max ephone, max DN, the source address, and then I have one ephone created with extension 3001. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to create ephone 1. Now this is very important because I'm going to use a software based phone called IP Blue, and it is important that I know the MAC address of the phone that is going to use. So I'm going to use this for MAC address for now. I need to break it down into 3 octet or 4 digit each. Then I'm going to say button 1:1. So button 1 on the phone with the DN1 right here. Once that is done, type of the phone 7965, which is right here. You can control the type of the phone. And I'm going to change the IP address here to the IP address of the router, 142.102.65.254. Make sure I can ping that IP address. So let's fix that problem first. Okay, Kodak G711 MULA. So now I'm going to make sure why my IP address is not pingable. Oh, I think I know why. I'm going to change the IP address to this IP address actually. Because that is not, the other IP address doesn't exist. So under telephony service, I must change the IP address to this as well. And that's it. So this is the IP address, should be pingable. There you go. Alright, so let's take a look at the configuration on this. Under telephony service, I got my maximum ephone, maximum number of DN, IP source address. This is the IP address I'm pointing to, and this is my extension 3001. This is my number. This is my ephone. So now what I'm going to ready to do, I'm ready to open that particular phone. So I'm going to create open phone instance 1. I may have to remove it. No IP source port, and put the command back in. Yep, so it's not responding. Okay, so I'll close this application, open it again. So let's take a look at the config one more time. Under telephony service, I'll go and say create profile, CNF file, see if that helps. So that is the MAC address, that is the TFTP, should work. Okay, there you go, it registered. So if you take a look at this phone configuration, if I go and show you the config, just take a look at this plus right here. That is coming from the description. Private line, that is coming from the label. But the actual number of this phone is actually 3001 or this. Alright, so I'm going to have another phone configured. So second phone will be ephone DN2. This is going to be dual line. Number 3002. Name John. And well, description label private line, then I'm going to create a phone for that phone. So let me open the wizard again. So I'm going to use this MAC address now for the phone 2. ephone 2 MAC address. Okay. Button 1:2 this time, because 2 is the second DN that we need to assign, but button number remains the same, 1, because it's the first line I'm going to assign. Type 7965 Kodak G711 MULO, and I am ready. So let me go and open that application instance 2. There you go, phone 2. So I got 2 phone, 2 skinny phone, 2 SIP phone. If I dial 400, sorry, not 4002. Oh, hold on a second. Did I choose 4002? That is not the wrong. That's not the correct one. Yeah, it's not pointing to the right call manager. So I will close this, save this configuration. Yeah, I was quite surprised why it registers so fast. Alright, we'll try opening. I forgot to save the wizard, that's why. Okay, there we go. That's more like it. 3001, 3002. So if I dial new call 3002, it rings this phone. See? And the call from here, if I dial 3001, it says call from John. Alright, so that's pretty much how you register the phone. Now the next we're going to talk about is the features. As we go along with the various configurations like this, we're going to learn about some of the features. Now, Call Manager Express has a local directory service which allows you to define, let's say, first, various entry which can be searchable. Under the ephone DN, when you configure the name command, that name becomes searchable within the directory. Name are used for both building an internal corporate directory as well as caller ID. By default, CME will organize local directory by alphabet using the first name. Also add a manual entry to the directory using the directory entry. So if you have a certain speed dial, like I say, you want to call a plumber or you order delivery pizza, then you can create a specific directory entry that can be accessed directly as well. Up to 100 manual entries can be defined into the Call Manager Express. So if I go to, let's say, now for directory to work, you must enable the HTTP server. Second, under telephony, you can say directory entry 1. We'll call this 3001 phone 1. So let's call this name Faisal. Directory entry 2, 3002 name, let's call this John. Then I can say directory last name first, but in order to do that you gotta make sure that both phone has first name last name defined. So I don't think John Smith, for example. Okay, so if I search for Smith, it should bring his extension. Now once this is configured, you should be able to searchable by going to the directory. You may have to reset the phone. As you can see right now, Faisal Khan, John Smith. If I open the second phone, I go to the directory again, I should see both. So if I dial, so at this stage 3001, so if I call John Smith, it rings his number. Okay. Now if I want to do a search, I can try, let's say, Smith. Sorry. Okay, so when I do a search, I can see Smith. So I'm going to do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another ephone. Let's call this ephone DN3, number 3003, name, let's call this David Edward. See if this is searchable. Now again, I might have to close it and open it again because they have to download the configuration file. I don't actually have to even add it. It shows up right there, all the name, as you can see. See, I didn't even add it as a directory entry, but it is displaying there as Edward David. Okay. Now, configuring forwarding. Call forwarding allows you to forward a call to different destination. So to forward a call from one IP phone to another, just you have an option to use the call forward feature on the phone. So if I have my phone, for example, right here, I have a feature called call forward all. So what happened is, at this stage, if I press this button, I can say call forward to my cell number, 8391717, and it will forward the call to that particular number. So as you can see right here, the little red, it says call is about to forward some number. I can click on the call forward again and cancel it. But this is something that I can monitor from the phone or control from the phone. But what if I want to forward to different destination? That is something that user should not be able to modify. So under the ephone DN, you can use the call forward busy and call forward no answer to the voicemail number or any other number you want to define. So in this scenario, forwarding calls from a command line gives you more option than does forwarding calls from the IP phone itself. Now, tandem hop in the call flow is a default call flow, which means that when call is forwarded, the voice traffic will go through the forwarding station, thus the quality can suffer. So this is the example of a tandem forward. So call coming in here gets forwarded to another phone. Now what happened is, this call will continue to go through this process. All the conversation will come from the other side through this side and then go through this particular phone. Whereas H450 represent the second method of forwarding, which basically, when you call this phone and you say forward it to this phone right here, is going to redirect the call to this. So it will be basically like a new call. So using the H450 standard, once the call gets forwarded to the final destination, the communication will be between this phone and this phone directly. So the one that is forwarding station is no longer in the picture. You can transfer a call to another extension using a business phone system. To transfer a call, you can use a transfer key on the phone, or you can use the soft key template. Now, when you use the transfer, there are two types of transfer you have: consult transfer and a blind transfer. So think about the behavior is that I call the extension, the receptionist, and receptionist want to transfer the call to David. So when receptionist use a consult transfer, receptionist has to dial David extension first. Once David answers the call, then receptionist will press the transfer key second time. The call will get transferred because she got the permission to transfer the call. However, if it is configured to the blind transfer, then once receptionist dial David extension in intention to transfer the call, David doesn't even have to answer the call. The call will automatically get forwarded to his extension. At that moment, receptionist can hang up the call while the phone is even ringing. Now, to configure the transfer, you must define what patterns are allowed. By default, transfer to, in this example, you can only transfer the call to any extension that starts with 5 ... or any extension that starts with 4 ... If I say that transfer-pattern.t, which can be very dangerous because you can transfer to any number in that scenario. So to make sure that there is no call toll fraud, you want to restrict the call to be transferred to internal numbers. Now, call park. Call park allows you to retrieve a call from any phone in your organization once it's parked to a designated number by pressing a park soft key. Any IP phone that can dial the park extension can retrieve the call. The call park system works by finding a free ephone DN where call will be held on a temporary basis. From the retrievable phone, you can then dial that particular DN number to retrieve the call to that particular new phone. Call being parked at a random extension might work well for warehouse environment with a voice paging system. So to configure call park, I must create an ephone DN, let's say 15, number 7001. Park slot, timeout 30, meaning that park the call for 30 seconds. Every 30 seconds, give a reminder for 10 time. So 10 reminder will be given that call has been parked. Now, what you do not want to do is you do not want people to park the call. You want people to be able to transfer the call to this particular extension. So you can say that transfer park should be blocked. So an example, I will create an ephone DN 15. It has to be single line. I'll assign a number 7001. I'm going to say park slot, timeout 30, limit 10. Okay, so I got one phone here. I'm going to open the second phone. Alright, so if I dial 3002 and 3002 answers the call using the more soft key, it's a park right here. And it tells you the call has parked at extension 7001. So now from a third phone, I can dial that, let's say 7001. The call will go to that particular phone. Now in this case, this is not the right way of testing it because I'm using the same phone that I actually used to park the call. But technically you can dial 7001 from any phone and that call will get forwarded to that individual or to that particular phone. Call pickup, which allows user to pick up a call when another phone is ringing without having to go to that particular phone. There are three types of call pickup you have: directed call pickup, group pickup, and local group pickup. Directed call pickup is when explicit when you pick up the call on extension that is explicitly ringing. From any local phone, user can pick up a ringing call on another phone by pressing a soft key and then dialing the extension. So I'm going to do a quick test on this, but I'm going to register a third phone. I already have a DN3, so I'm going to register a phone number 3. I need to get the MAC address. Close. Button 1:3. Type 7965. Codec G711 MULA. Okay, so now I'm going to open that third phone. Okay, so right now I got 3 phones registered. Okay, so here it says that directed call pickup is when one of the phone is ringing from any other local phone. User can pick up the ringing phone on another phone by pressing the soft key and then dialing an extension number. So let's see if that works. Alright, so I'm going to call from 3001 to 3002. While this is ringing from the third phone, I'm going to say new call, more, pick up 3002. And as you can see, the call came in here. So for this to work, I need to know the extension that the phone is ringing. That's one way of using call pickup. Second way of call pickup is group pickup. Call pickup to a particular phone, as long as you know the group number where that phone belongs to. So for example, I got ephone DN1, DN2, DN3, and I have a pickup group 100, pickup group 100, pickup group 300. These 2 phones belong to one group 100. The phone 3 belongs to a separate group. So when a call comes into this particular extension 4001, I can actually pick up the call from the third phone by dialing the group pickup key and the group number. So I'm going to do exactly that. ephone DN1, pickup group number, let's call it 100. ephone DN2, pickup group number 100. ephone DN3, pickup group number 300. So let's 3001 dials 3002. Phone is ringing. I'm going to click on group pickup 100, and the call came in here. So with this scenario, I don't actually have to know the extension number. I just need to know the group number. So you might have a like 400 extension in one, 40 extension in one particular group. Obviously, you're not going to remember everybody's extension, or you may not even see whose extension is ringing. But if you know that that corner is the group 100, then if you hear the phone ringing there, you can just pressing the button and then receive the call. The danger part of this is that you may end up answering calls for someone that's not related to your work. Could be like a personal call, so you want to be careful on that. Third option is a local group pickup, where phone user will pick up ringing phone from on another phone by pressing the soft key and the asterisk number, as long as the both phone belong to same group, in this case 100 and 100. So let's say I'm going to call from 3001 to 3003. Sorry, not this way. From 3003 to 3001. Phone is ringing. On this phone, pick up star. Oh. Okay, group pickup and then press star. So that I had to press the group pickup and then the star key for the call to come in. So this will work if both belong to same. So again, I'm going to 3003 belongs to group number 3. So if I redial, this phone is ringing. Let me lower the volume. Whereas this particular phone right here, 3002, belong to same group as phone 1. But all I have to do, say more call, group pickup, star. The call comes here. So I don't need to know the group number. I don't even need to know the extension number. Let's try if I can pick it up from another group. So if I dial 3003. So 3003 is ringing on this phone, group pickup, star. Nothing happens. Why? Because extension 3003 belongs to a different group. So directed call pickup is when you know the person's extension. You press the pickup key, then the extension number. Group pickup, when you know the group number of the phone that is ringing, you just have to press the group pickup and then followed by the group number. Local group, both phone has to belong to same group in order for them to pick up each other's call. ePhone template, there are two types of template you have in Call Manager Express. You have an ePhone template and a DN template. Phone template allows you to change some of the features that are applied to one or more individual phone. Template allows you to change, apply certain settings that are applicable to all the phone. Whereas a DN template allows you to modify the standard features of the line or ePhone DN level. So here's the ePhone template that I have that is applied to phone, template number 15, where I am blocking the park and transfer key. And then I'm going to apply this to my phone 36 right here by saying ePhone 36, ePhone template. Then I have a DN template, which allows you to apply the call forwarding command to a bunch of extension DN. So instead of applying them individually, I apply the features to the template, and then template gets applied to all the phone. What is the advantage is that in case I need to change the call forwarding number to some other number, I don't have to go to individual DN to modify that. So let me show you the configuration. So let's say from this phone I want to remove the call forward feature, this particular key right here. So I'll go to ephone-template 15 soft key template. I'm going to idle. I'm going to say redial, new call, and nothing else. Just redial and new call. Okay, exit. I'm going to go to ephone 1, ephone template 15, and I'm going to reset it. Type reset. So phone 1 is rebooting. This is the one, and see the difference. It does not have the call forward setting. See, I got redial, new call, but no call forward. Phone 2, however, has it because I did not apply the template to phone 2. So using a template, you can modify some of the features that the phone has. Paging, which allows you to define a relay audio message to group by give an announcement. The way the paging system works, you dial an extension, and then once you dial a number, you say whatever you have to say, and that will get broadcasted to group of phone that belongs to that group. When caller dials a paging number, each idle IP phone that has been configured to be part of the paging will automatically go to answer mode, and then of course listen to what they have to say. Displays on the phone that answer the paging shows a caller ID, such as whatever the name you define. Audio paging provides a one-way voice path from the phone that have been designated as a receiver paging. So first I must create an ephone DN right here with a number that will be the paging number. If I'm going to save bandwidth, I can use a multicast or I can use unicast. Then I'm going to go to every phone that is going to be part of the paging destination. So let's say that phone 1 and 2 will belong to paging. I'm going to create a paging DN 10. Sorry, number 8888. Paging IP. So if I can just simply say paging, that's it, nothing else. Then go to ephone 1 and then say paging DN number 10. And you have a choice, unicast or multicast. I'm going to say unicast because I did not choose the IP address. Reset. ephone DN2. Paging DN 10. Unicast. Reset. So both of my phone has been resetted. So if I were to type show run, so this is my paging DN number, and it's been applied to ephone 1 by saying paging number DN, use DN number 10 using unicast traffic. Paging ephone 2 was also part of that, but ephone 3 is not part of the paging. Okay, so now from ephone 3 I'm going to dial 8888. Testing. Okay, so if I dial 888, see both phone is red. It's red. So that means they are in listening mode. So if I hang up, they change their status. Okay, so that's the basic. I mean, I can't really do a honest quick testing because I'm using the same desktop for all three phones to register. The next topic is called single number reach. Single number reach is a feature that allows user to enable incoming calls to their answer incoming calls to their extension, either on their desk phone or a remote destination such as a mobile number. User can pick up an active call on a desktop phone or a remote phone without losing the connection. Now, these features allows caller to dial a single number to reach the user, whether they are in office or in their on their cell phone while they're traveling. Calls that are not answered can be forwarded to single voicemail. Remote destination may include either a mobile, pager, smartphone, IP phone not belong to same call manager express. Could be home phone number in a PSTN. Call Manager Express rings the desk phone first, and if the phone does not answer within configurable amount of time, it will go to the second one. So to configure single number reach, if you want to have the feature to turn it on and off, you must create an ephone template with soft key called mobility right there. And then on that ephone, such as DN1 and DN2, I'm going to say mobility and then SNR, followed by the phone number I want the calls to be forwarded to. It will delay 5 seconds. I think it's delay 5 seconds and timeout 15. If it doesn't answer, the call will go to voicemail. So let's go ahead and configure this on our side B. First of all, we already have an ephone template created called 15. We're going to say that soft key idle new call, redial new call mobility, soft key connected, soft key connected. I'm going to say, what do we have on connected? End call hold, end call hold mobility. I will apply this template to phone 1. Well, phone 1 is already there. Phone 2. Reset the phone. Now on DN1, I'm going to say mobility. Then I'm going to say SNR. So if somebody called extension 3001, the phone will ring, let's say 3003 if it works. Delay 5 seconds, timeout 20, call forward 4400. Let's see if it's going to work. So what I have, so when somebody dialed extension 3001, that is my phone 1. If he does not answer, the call should ring phone 3. So let's usually internal call, not a good idea to test, but let's try it. Phone is ringing there. 1 second. There you go. You see both phone is ringing right now. So I can answer it here. I can answer it here. Okay. So that can be extension mobility can be a very useful feature for people like salespeople or field technician who are traveling a lot. So they can be very useful when it comes to extension mobility. Sorry, single number reach, not extension mobility. And you have the option from the phone to turn the features. If I click on the mobility feature right here. You're not a mobile user, okay. So you have using the mobility key, you should be able. This guy is not part of the mobile user because ephone DN2. So if I go to ephone DN2 mobility SNR 3003, time delay 5 seconds, timeout 20, call forward 4400. So if I go to this phone right here, mobility, see it says send the calls to phones. If I select that, okay, there's some template issues, but if I select that, then what happens is any call coming in will automatically send the calls to the mobile phone. So let's say if I dial 3001, answers the call, and I say send the call to mobility. Okay, that doesn't work on this phone. Alright, so these are some of the features. The last feature we're going to talk about called ephone hunt, which allows you to create a hunting in Call Manager Express. ephone hunt allows you to define a pilot number, and when you create an ephone hunt, you have to decide what kind of algorithm you want to use. The algorithm options you have is called sequential, pure mode, longest idle. And if none of your members answer the call, you want the calls to be forwarded to voice final destination. So here's an example. If I dial 6500, the call will go to 6001, 6002. If neither of these members answer the call will go to 6000. And in a timeout, it should ring 5 seconds between the each, which is kind of very low. You want to keep it at 10 seconds or something. So I will create a ephone hunt. So one sequential, and I'm going to define a pilot number. So let's say the pilot number 3000, and the list of member will dial 3001 first, followed by 3002. Final destination, voicemail. Okay, so what's going to happen from here? From 3003, if I dial 3000, the phone is ringing here. After a few seconds, the call should come here. Let me put a timeout. Okay, there you go. The call came in here next. So I can reduce the timeout to 10 seconds. So I'll hang up. I'll dial again. It's ringing this phone. 10 seconds, it should come back to this phone. So there you go. It's a bit faster than the previous time. So ephone hunt can be used for a small technical support team or a sales group or even receptionist. Alright, so this is pretty much all there is for Call Manager Express. Hope it was enough for you to get you guys up and running within your small business. Very useful features. A lot of companies are deploying this, so get to learn this particular product. As like I said, this is a lot of small to mid-sized company are using this solution to provide IP telephony. So that's pretty much it for this lab, and I will see you in the next.